Chapter 8 Reunion. Beep, 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 beep. A limp hoof is waving around in the direction of the alarm clock. It's tapping desperately all over the annoying device until it gives up, using a conventional method to deactivate it, and yanks the cord right out of the wall. A somewhat flustered Rarity rolls over to face away from the rising sun glaring at her laziness through her window. As she does so, she sees a particularly perplexing purple pony lying next to her, still fast asleep. Suddenly, she feels like Twilight never left, like they've always been together, and their time apart was nothing but a dark and lonely dream. "Sst, Twilight, wake up!" Rarity nudges her sides. "Twipey, get up! Floofy, fluffy, nookifikins." Twilight was now awake, pretending to still be asleep, using every ounce of her will not to smile. Rarity grabbed her sides again. Rarity immediately sees through this playful ruse. "Well, if you don't get up, I'll have to tickle you out of bed." Rarity began tickling her sides with the utmost glee. Twilight, now unable to retain her facade, begins laughing hysterically, partially due to Rarity's relentless tickling, partially due to the pent-up longing for moments like these, which she once shared with her old lover on a near daily basis. "Well, I'm glad to see you're awake now. We need to be heading out soon, so let's get ready." The two unicorns rolled out of bed and prepared to see their old friend Applejack. This would be the first time Twilight saw her since they first left Canterlot. Needless to say, Twilight felt like a new pony. She was eager to see her old friend again and make some long overdue apologies for not seeing her sooner. Rainbow Dash nervously paced back and forth, paranoia taking over. She lifted her front right hoof, looking at the thin piece of metal nailed into it. The characters SC, separated by a lightning bolt, were professionally engraved into it. "Something bothering ya?" Applejack peeked into the room after hearing Rainbow's nervous trottering cease. Rainbow Dash quickly shoved her hoof to the floor with a loud stomp. "Yeah, nothing to do at all." Rainbow put her blatantly fake face. "Come now, Dash. Rarity ain't all bad. She's just, she's Rarity. I'm sure she'll be happy to see you as I was." Applejack wasn't so sure of her own statement, but didn't see a reason not to try and at least be reassuring. Applejack walked out of the room, allowing Rainbow Dash to recompose herself. Outside, she saw a carriage slowly approaching in the distance. She felt a familiar sinking sensation as she prepared to swallow her pride and take a barrage of insults in front of her little sister. The carriage landed, and to Applejack's surprise, Twilight Sparkle climbed out, followed by Rarity. Twilight ran up to Applejack and gave her a tight hug. "I'm sorry for not coming to see you sooner, Applejack. I've been so busy. I know there's no excuse." "No worries, Twilight. I'm just happy. I'm as happy as can be that you're here now." Applejack continued to hug her for a few more seconds before backing away. "Rarity?" Applejack gave her a nod of recognition. "Applejack, dear, I've been a horrible pony towards you. I just want you to know I am truly sorry for that. I no longer care about anything either of us said or did in the past. I just want us to be friends again." Applejack had desperately wanted to hear these words from Rarity for such a long time. "I'd like that, Rarity. I'd like that a lot." Applejack looked down at her hooves. She was taken by the forceful impact of Rarity's crushing hug. Rarity seemed to be making up for lost time, giving Applejack 100 hugs all at once. "I love you too, Rarity," Applejack said under her breath as Rarity squeezed the remaining air out of her lungs. Twilight watched them, and felt a sensation of warmth and happiness fill her heart. The blissful expression on her face changed into one of shock and disbelief as she saw Rainbow Dash peek out of Applejack's front window. Not completely sure she actually saw her long-lost friend, she decided to investigate. "Would you mind if we stayed a while, Applejack?" Twilight inquired. Of course I wouldn't mind. You're always welcome in my home, you know that. The three ponies trotted inside. Twilight immediately began searching for Rainbow Dash. Unable to find her, she asked Applejack about it. I thought I saw someone here. I'm sure it was an Apple Bloom. Applejack looked down for a minute. Yeah, you probably did, Twilight. She's not feeling herself lately, but Rainbow Dash is here. Both Rarity and Twilight were taken back by this fact. Rainbow Dash here is something they never expected. Applejack went into another room, then walked back in slowly with Rainbow under her arm. Rainbow Dash was looking down at her hooves, wondering what to expect from her old friends that she had left behind all these years. Rainbow Dash, being the most loyal of ponies, would never be able to forgive herself for leaving her friends and Ponyville behind, no matter what her reasons were. Rainbow, I can't believe it's really you, Twilight spoke first, her emotions now beginning to get the better of her. Rarity spoke next. How long have you been back? Rainbow Dash looked away, her now much longer mane covering half of her face. Her personality greatly resembling that of Fluttershy's. Where is Fluttershy? She showed up here yesterday. She's bunking down here with me for the time being. Applejack interrupted, attempting to save her nervous Pegasus from her own loss of words. Twilight walked up to the cowering pony. She rested her nose on her head. What happened to you? Something's wrong, Rainbow. You don't need to feel afraid when you're around us, no matter what happens. We're your friends. Rarity chimed in. She's right, Rainbow Dash. We love you. Nothing will change that. But please tell me, why and where in Equestria did you go? Rainbow Dash felt relieved when her friends didn't seem angry with her. She looked up and met the gazes of her friends as they closed in for a hug. Thanks for that, you guys. I really needed to hear that you weren't too mad at me for leaving. Twilight shot her angry glance. Oh, I'm more than mad that you left us without saying a word. Do you have any idea I went through trying to find you? But more than that, I'm happy you're okay. Rainbow felt mixed emotions regarding Twilight's response, but everything seemed to be okay between the circle of friends. I'm sorry, Twilight. I really am. I know I probably can't make it up to you guys, but I'll try. Come here, you silly little filly. Twilight and Rarity took their turns smothering Rainbow Dash in overdue affection. Now tell us what happened, Rainbow. I want to know your story. Twilight curiously was becoming more prevalent as she thought of all the possible things Rainbow could have spent these past 3 years doing. They all made themselves comfortable and listened to Rainbow Dash's story. Apple Bloom came downstairs with her packed bags. She was happy to see Twilight and Rarity again, but sad that she'd be leaving her beloved sister again. She walked over to Rainbow Dash and made herself comfortable by her side. The sun was now directly above Applejack's home. As Rainbow finished her story, leaving off at the same point she did when telling Applejack, even though this was the second time she had heard it, her story still left Applejack's holding back tears. The two other males felt the same stir of emotions as they imagined with their own Dashie, cold alone all these years. Twilight rested her head on Rainbow's mane. We really did miss you all these years, Dash. You will always be welcome to stay with any one of us. We felt more than enough pain when we lost Pinky. Losing you too only doubled that pain. Rainbow allowed a few tears as she tried to express how sorry she truly was for causing her friends any unintended pain. But this is the first time the four of us have been together all since Celestia knows when. I know we should do something, Twilight pointed out. I want to stay here in Ponyville tonight. Tomorrow starts the weekend anyway, so I'll not have to worry about work. The research team will be fine without me for another day. Rarity looked at Apple Bloom with a smile and agreed. You really don't need 2 full days to get settled in anyway, do you? Well, it sounds good to me. Applejack felt she should add something. Rainbow Dash looked up at them with a familiar grin and nodded. I think for the first time ever, We should go all pay our respects to Pinkie together. All 5 of us, that is. Twilight pointed out, even though there was more of a reunion than she could have hoped for, it was still missing a very important piece, leaving a void in their newly formed circle. Fluttershy, god damn it. Does any pony know where she lives nowadays? Applejack thought aloud. We'll go looking for her. I'm sure we can turn up some clues somewhere. The 5 ponies all crammed into the carriage, and that was waiting patiently outside. To Ponyville, please, Rarity politely demanded. They all climbed out and split up, asking the few residents that remained if they knew anything about the whereabouts of their missing friend. No such luck. They all found themselves at the front door of Fluttershy's long-since abandoned home. They rounded the locked door open, and all funneled in. It was dark and musty inside. Empty animal cages and pet beds were piled up into a corner. It was dark inside. There were several layers of curtains nailed to the wall around her windows, blocking every ray of sun. Rainbow Dash pulled one of the curtains off the windows, allowing the sun to flood into the room. Twilight heard a noise upstairs, but decided to ignore it. The floors and walls around the fireplace were heavily blackened, as if the fire had gotten out of control at some point. Something felt wrong as they looked upon the tattered furniture strewn across the house. What could have happened here? Twilight asked her peers. They had no answers. Maybe some pony did this after she left, Rarity pointed out. Twilight nodded and continued up the stairs to Fluttershy's old room. Horror struck the 4 mares as they looked upon the wreckage. Applejack decided not to enter at all and went back outside to meet Apple Bloom, who, to her discontent, had been instructed to wait by the carriage. The other 3 ponies walked in, stepping over the room debris. They saw many hoof prints stamped into the walls, an oak bed frame that had been bucked into several pieces. The window was broken and boarded up with a few overlapping planks. Sunlight flittered through the gaps and dimly lit the room, giving it a strikingly eerie presence. There was a strange hole above the closet door, leading into the attic. It was pitch black, and Twilight felt as if she was being drawn into the void. Then she suddenly spotted a shard of glass reflecting the sunlight into her eyes. It was one of the many surrounding the old picture on the floor. Twilight picked it up. She instantly recognized it, remembering her own copy sitting on her desk in her classroom. It was the 6 of them, sharing a group hug. Only, in this picture, Twilight's Pinkie Pie's face was blackened out. Various stabs and other forms of puncture scratches around her face as well. Twilight's filled with emotion she'd never felt before. A combination of sorrow, anger, and fear. Let's go, guys. There's nothing to be found here. Twilight dropped the picture and let the other ponies out of the house. I guess it's going to be the 4 of us this time. I'm sure we'll find Fluttershy soon enough, though. The 4 ponies all headed out to Old Ponyville Cemetery. Rarity signaled the carriage driver with a nod, who then lifted the carriage and flew away. They all headed towards Pinkie, feeling happy to go spend time with her, rather than the sadness that usually follows their thoughts of the once lively, laughter-filled pink pony. The sun began to set, and the 5 ponies seemed to have set up a camp of sorts. They had a small fire burning off in an empty space near Pinkie's grave. They all cuddled around the fire. Twilight and Rarity held each other endearingly as they watched the lit logs crack and pop into the intense heat. Rainbow Dash found herself in the comfort of Applejack's friendly embrace, as they leaned into one another, enjoying the tranquilizing warmth of the dancing flames. Apple Bloom was laying around, wrapped up in a blanket, snoring quietly. So since we're all here, is there anything anyone wants to say? Is there any air to clear? Who knows how long it will be until we can all sit together like this again? Twilight was attempting to rouse up a conversation. Rarity looked up at her with a smile. I love you, Twi. I'm not exactly sure how to say that, but I'm just gonna say Twi-Pie. I love you, Twi-Pie. Twipey? mm, then began to give her a small barrage of smooches. Twati? Ha! Rainbow Dash began to hold her sides and roll around the ground laughing, finally displaying a hint of her once famous charisma. Wow, that's a bit much, don't you think, Rarity? Oh, Rainbow. Wow, don't you think that's a bit much, Rarity? Rainbow said, still giggling. Not in the least, Rainbow Dash. Rarity then smiled and winked at Twilight again, her affection showing more than ever before as she met gazes with the purple unicorn. Twilight's eyes were gleaming and flickering in the firelight, as were Rarity's, which Twilight found is just as captivating now as the first time she lost her. Gag, get a room, Rainbow. Oh, jeez. Rainbow teased them. Rainbow began to fidget in her seat, feeling terrible that she hadn't told her so far more than accepting the friends and the whole truth about all he had done during her time away. So Twilight, I was thinking, there's something I'd like to tell you guys. I didn't tell you everything I did yet. There's more. I'm not proud of it, but I think you need to know. Applejack was a bit taken by this confession, but didn't blame Rainbow for feeling like this, like she couldn't open up quite yet. Please, you know there's nothing that can... Oh, this is not good. Twilight smiled and encouraged Rainbow Dash to open up with her friends. Well, okay then, but you guys might want to prepare yourself for some shockers. Rainbow Dash looked back up at Apple Bloom, making sure she was still fast asleep. She then proceeded to tell her story. A story of a troubled man, lost in a city of hatred, of violence, lost in despair.